You are looking at a yellow Himalayan raspberry. It's sweet, tart, and it's on a bush with millions of thorns. And if you fall into one of these bushes, you're going to wind up in the emergency room. You're looking at yellow Himalayan raspberries. Growing on a yellow Himalayan raspberry bush. Usually the birds get them, and all we get left with are the thorns. The thorns are a danger to man and beast. But the raspberries are sweet and tart, and something you could forage in an emergency if you had to. They are all over the place in Volcano. This is a yellow Himalayan raspberry. Grows on a very thorny bush up here in Volcano. It's an invasive species from Asia, and they have been targeted for eradication by the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park Service, and declared the most. In 2016 March, the U of H, University of Hawaii, declared it the invasive pest of the month. Usually the birds get the berries before the people can get to them, and all we get left with is a thorny bush, and it's a very thorny bush. And there's only two ways to eradicate it: with a bulldozer or with Roundup. So eventually I'm going to have to hire a bulldozer to get rid of it. I think. I'm going to try it, do what I can by hand, but they are quite tasty. In the meantime, for the rest of spring, I'll let them grow and just harvest them, and then when that's done, I'll start cutting them back. And it's pretty much some nasty thorns. But I want to get you guys a close-up of them so you could see them. And there's quite a few growing here, but usually the birds do get them. So here's a nice shot of a yellow Himalayan raspberry from growing right on the bush. More yellow Himalayan raspberries on the yellow Himalayan raspberry bush. We're gonna have like a decent harvest if I pick them before the birds get to them. But the birds usually get most of everything when it comes to the berries because they live outside and I live in a house. I have no way to protect them from the birds, so you basically just pick them and eat them if you want. It's something you can forage if you have to, but mostly I just show them to the guests staying in the vacation rental and say, would you like to try a Himalayan raspberry, because they'll probably never get that chance ever in their life to try one of these. And they're tasty, sweet, and tart. And they're perfectly fine to eat. The roots have medicinal value, but they're perennials, so if you don't dig them up by the roots and get rid of them, then they'll just never stop growing, and you'll always have this. The problem here is that this particular bush is growing, blocking the sun, not to mention overhanging where I'm planning to put a raised garden bed. So As it is, it's probably going to be shade crops anyway, just because the ohia trees, like spinach and things like that. But I just wanted to share what these berries look like, and there are some other berries that grow on the property that I'm working to identify that aren't yellow. But once again, this is the yellow Himalayan, or the Himalayan yellow raspberry bush, or the yellow Himalayan raspberry bush fruit. They're pretty small, um, but they're a sweet, tasty treat if you need to forage food for some reason. You see one of these growing, just be very careful of the thorns. They're nasty. It's not worth getting stuck. So, but if you can carefully harvest one and not get stuck, they're sweet. And we've got quite a few growing here on this bush. Spring's coming around, and you can see all the the little berry blossoms that are growing just right in this picture here. All those little blossoms are going to turn into berries and feed the birds. Of course, I look at the birds and say, the birds are eating my berries, whereas the birds look at me and say, look, that human is eating our berries. Depends what side of the food chain you're on, I suppose. Alright, this is HVS. Hope you have enjoyed this yellow Himalayan raspberry moment.